Hello, I'm Don Kitty, and this is episode 3 of the Crusader Kings 3 versus Crusader Kings 2 Let's Play. Just following on from the first two episodes, which mirrored what was going on in the Paradox stream on Twitch and on YouTube, and just comparing what's going on in CK3, what they're showing you. It's coming up with what you can see if you're playing CK2 right now. You'll be able to see everything that's happening, and compare. I'm going to look at what's going to happen and just talk about how it compares to what's coming up in CK3 and how CK3 is quite radically different from what you're experiencing in CK2. And it's changed in a lot of ways. This week's stream, I thought it didn't have any major revelations. There wasn't anything big, but there were a lot of little things. And I think, yeah, it's gonna be quite a change whenever CK3 actually comes out. It comes out in September. So we've still got just under 2 weeks left. So yeah, get hype. Yeah. When I left this playthrough last week, I had just got wrecked by these guys down here who were fighting in a holy war. And they were fighting against a Reconquista, and then called in a whole bunch of guys and then used those guys to wreck me, even though they weren't technically fighting me. Now I want to go to holy war against this guy. He's currently holy war in there. He has 72 troops, and I'm just kind of waiting for my levies to replenish a little bit because I got beaten in that last battle. So I just want to let them tick up a little bit, just to give myself the ability to fight back. These guys, I think, are in 2 holy wars. No, they're just in 1 holy war. These guys are in a couple. They're in a holy war for Granada against defending from one against the French. They also have a decadence revolt going on. So, yep, fun times all around. So I think I'm going to do a holy war against this guy. He is not Muslim. He is heresy, a Muslim, Zikri. Yeah, so there aren't many of those guys around, so I'm not really going to incur any extra allies just joining just to defend the faith. So I think I can quite soundly take this without too much hassle. Yeah, and holy wars are going to work quite differently in CK3. The way I just called that, it didn't really cost me anything. There was no piety cost, there was no prestige cost, or I didn't have to pay any money. Unlike whenever if I called a border dispute, that would have actually cost me money. In terms of, I wonder if I should just go up there and fight Himalayas and mountains. I don't think that's a good idea actually. Yeah, in terms of CK3, holy wars are going to cost devotion, and devotion kind of replaces piety, but it's going to work a little bit differently. Piety kind of reflects how holy your character is, in the same way that devotion will, but devotion is going to do it in a way that's going to it actually reflects how much of a sinner you are. So if your piety is really low, or your devotion is really low, it's going to affect what you can do. For instance, if your piety or your devotion is low, see, I mean, I'm already calling it piety a lot, like, you know, because I'm so used to CK2. In CK3, it's devotion, and if it's low, you will see that you won't actually be able to call holy wars. If you're branded a sinner, you won't be able to call holy wars against Muslims. So you're going to have to be a good, pious Boy Scout in order to holy war in Iberia and the Middle East. Okay. You're not an I faction, so I don't think we'll do anything for now. Yeah, so I mean, you can't do any holy wars if you're not spending enough time managing your devotion and making sure your piety is high, and traits, such as deceitful, lustful, those kind of stuff will affect how pious or how devoted you're seen to be. So if you've got a lot of those traits, those will affect you and those will push you down and will make you look bad in the eyes of the faith, which is, I think it's an interesting way of doing it. It's an interesting way of using piety as a way of managing your characters and what you can actually, how you interact with the rest of the world. Because at the minute, I mean, piety helps whenever you're connecting with Pope and stuff. If you look here, it says your piety is giving the Pope a +10 modifier. It's not a lot, but it does help a little bit. Obviously, things like traits will do better, but yeah, I think devotion is going to have a much more wider effect on the CK3 world than piety does on CK2. In terms of holy wars, the other change is that whenever you're in a holy war, if you're the target, or well, the person who you're targeting can also make this decision. They can choose to adopt your faith in order to get out of the war, basically. They can just say, okay, now I'm Christian. And because they're now Christian, why am I hostile to this guy? Because if they want to get out of a holy war, they can just say, okay, yeah, I'll be whatever. I'll be Christian, I'll be Muslim, whatever your faith is, I'll join your faith, and you can no longer attack me. But that's not going to work in CK3. Actually, in CK3, if you choose that, there is a chance that the person who is attacking you can decide, I don't care. I don't care if you change faiths, you are just going to have to endure another war. It's a random chance. I think it's meant to be a little bit based on the traits of the person who is... this guy's just going to get it right. The person, it's just going to be... It's meant to be based on the traits. So I think it will... Sorry, I'm getting a little bit distracted by realizing this guy's in another war against these Muslims down here. Or no, he's not against those. Wait, they just have the same banner? Oh, he must have just come out of that court. Yeah. So if you're in a holy war and you want to get out of the holy war and you decide, okay, I'm going to change faith, there's a random chance in CK3 that's not going to work. I don't know if there's any other balances to it. I would like to think that there would maybe be a balance of devotion, so that if you are fighting someone and they change faiths and join your faith and you decide, no, I don't care, that you're going to take a devotion hit to that, because that seems like it's going to be something. I mean, it seems kind of sinful to decide, okay, I don't care if you've joined the right faith, if you are now considered on the right side of holiness, or you're no longer a heretic, you've joined the righteous faith and I don't care. To decide that, I think, seems kind of opportunistic, and I would expect you to take a devotion hit. I don't know that for sure, but I would expect that to be something that would happen. I don't know if there's any other penalties to it. Again, I would like to think that there should be, but I'm not sure at this point. because I haven't played CK3. No one has. Well, there may be some advanced copies that have went out, but there's an embargo, so no one who has played CK3 is uploading CK3 videos. It's just impossible. Until the embargo is lifted closer to the time when the game comes out, and then everyone will get to see how the game looks and feels and plays. Yeah. So until then, nothing can. Won't really be seeing any personal videos of CK3, just from the Twitch stream and whatever little details you see in the tutorials that they've been putting out. One Proud Bavarian and Havoc have been doing them so far. Yep, so that's Holy Wars and Devotion for you. That's a big change to those. And see, I just took. Did I get Temperate? No, I didn't get Temperate. I would have shown you Temperate, because Temperate, obviously, if you get Temperate, it's a good trait and it boosts your opinion with the Pope. But I didn't get it, unfortunately. Can't show you that. But yeah, I expect the same to be true in CK3, that certain traits will boost your opinion with religious characters. I know that the Bishop is supposed to have a bigger role in the realm in CK3, rather than a lot of these little bishops. So you'll basically have an archbishop who's kind of in control in your realm. No, I don't want to do that. But I'm not entirely sure how historical that is. I know by the time of Henry VIII and stuff, archbishops and cardinals and stuff were kind of the head, but back in I suppose we're in the 1102 now. I'm not sure that I would have thought that there would have been as many archbishops and cardinals that would have been in control, but maybe. I don't particularly like that France is encroaching down here. That means I'm going to have to end up fighting them sooner rather than later. It's not necessarily a problem, it's just... Well, I don't think I should be in this army, because I am not a great commander. I was hoping that maybe once this guy had finished sieging this, or this girl I guess, had finished sieging this, that they might attack this guy, and I could tack myself onto that. But yeah, I think they're going to go up there and continue their other war. But once he finishes this, he might go down and attack these guys. And I'm not necessarily worried about fighting them. I do have a good trip advantage on them, and I have some better heavy infantry as such. I've got more light cav as well, and special troops. That'd be the Caballero. I think he has more pikemen. Yep, just a little bit. And he's reinforcing 202 soldiers a month. It's interesting whether he'll actually go down and attack here, or nope, see, he's gonna go and... Let him go. It's alright, I'll take this battle. Might actually be worth it going fighting in him now, because he's in plains rather than hills. These counties are hills. But I would like to maybe siege some of this down first. Focus Santiago, Zamora. I could imprison you actually. Yeah, but you're currently waging war, but it would be good to kind of centralize my duchy. This used to belong to my sister, or actually my aunt, sorry. This is the son of the original ruler, Alfonso. Yeah. It used to belong to my sister. An interesting thing in CK3 is actually the death of close family members can cause stress. So, whenever I was Alfonso and my sister had died, I could have actually gotten stressed from that, which would have been pretty interesting. I think it really builds up the importance of family and Dynasty, which has always been important to CK Crusader Kings. But you know, it's a little thing. It's a little thing that just kind of shows the significance of family and Dynasty in the game. That whenever your Dynasty members do die, you do actually see the effect it has on your character. But stress, again, will work much differently in CK3 than it does in CK2. In CK2 you get stressed. It's just a trait. It's a modifier. It causes some fertility penalty. I think it definitely gives you a health penalty. I think it maybe has a fertility penalty too. I think it affects some of your traits or your stats, like stewardship maybe. Yeah. Yes. My father was stressed. It gives you -1 to intrigue, -1 to stewardship, -10 fertility, -1 to health, and -10 personal combat skill. So yeah, but in CK3, the stress will actually build, so there's different levels. It's kind of like in CK2, in the later DLC, they changed Kinslayer, so it had different levels. So there was Tribal Kinslayer, there was Familial Kinslayer, or there was ones for like further out. So I mean, if you killed your son, it would be different than if you killed someone, a cousin or a distant uncle. So CK3 stress in that game will work similarly. It will build over time, and if you don't manage it, it can cause mental breaks, which then come with their own flaws and vices. So in order to offset your stress whenever you have a mental break, you might, we've seen this in the stream, they decided to start whoring around and joining a brothel, and yeah. So there's going to be lots of fun with that. The brothel did actually give them an STD. It was only itching, liver's pox, but they did say there is the possibility of you getting syphilis. So yeah, syphilis has returned in CK3. But there's also a lot of little Dynasty kind of things in CK3. I know that your spouse will give you culture events if you are the ruler of a land which is a different culture than you are, and the culture of this land is the same as mine, Castilian. if I was a different culture than this land and my wife was the same culture, I would be getting culture events in CK3 that would sort of enforce that to make me more beloved among the population. I don't actually think it's going to really change how people play the game, though. I think that people are probably still going to more likely marry for. Oh, I do have a court physician. I should probably do something with that. Yeah, I think people are probably still going to marry more for alliances than for culture, unless there's a really big penalty to it. I know that if you have different culture to those that you're ruling over, it will contribute to peasant and popularity factions, which have replaced just peasant uprisings. So you'll no longer get just random peasants cropping up in your counties. It is now a faction. It's not led by anyone, but it is a faction. Yeah. I really need to siege down some of the stuff so that I can. Because the stuff that I haven't sieged down, I won't take. So I'm going to want to siege down pretty much everything. Because I don't want that other guy, the host guy, to take any of it. So yeah, your spouse will contribute to different stuff. I mean, I know your spouse is actually on your council now. So yeah, there's a lot of different little things which I think are going to affect how we interact with spouse and family, which is important because CK, whether it's 2 or 3, at its very core is about family and about characters and about relationships, and I think that family relationship is important. My wife is getting fat. Yeah, I think I have enough troop numbers here not to have to worry about. My half-sister has been caught with this guy. I smell profit. So that's the only way you can really blackmail people in this CK2. In CK3, it's a kind of different. You have to actually take a lifestyle trait in order to really do it. I feel like it might be a good idea to leave and bring my armies back together, because I could be getting a lot more and he is reinforcing too quickly. Yeah. The other thing, actually, in terms of family, he's coming to fight us now. Yeah, this might be a good idea, bad idea. I think it's probably a bad idea. But, yeah, I don't think they're going to get there in time, which is my main worry. Maybe. I think it's going to be dicey. We're currently losing at the minute. Oh, I think maybe the tide is turning. No. Let's see. You're not any factions, it's fine. They might, yes, I think that they're just about going to get there in time. Just about. Yes. That was very, very close. Oh well, worked out. Sometimes it works out for you, sometimes it doesn't, but that time it did. Yep. You know, I'm at 100%, but I want to make sure that I siege down any of these little places that he has taken, because if I try and take this without that, if I end this war without having those, he'll continue to fight that war for some mosque and some stuff. Yeah, so I need to make sure I want to get all that stuff. But yeah, the AI in CK3 will actually wait for marriages. So whenever I'm playing, I generally like to arrange betrothals around the 12th birthday, so whenever they get the education pop-up, because I think that it generally, at that point, you get good matches. If you wait until they're 16, I think that you miss out on a lot of opportunities. You miss out on a lot of opportunities to marry someone really good that's really connected to someone powerful, a king or a duke. Because by the time you're 16, if there's anyone that's like 14 or 15, like they've usually been married off. The AI seems to marry them off around those ages, especially doors. So I think it's better a lot of time to marry or get betrothals at age 12. But in CK3, actually, the AI isn't going to just marry them off as soon as they can. They're going to wait and marry them and wait for good matches. So I'd say if they are in your realm, they will wait for someone in your realm to have a child that they think is of age that can be married to them, so that then they can use that against you, that they can build up good relations of other vassals and have alliances, so that if they want to fight you, they can. Yeah, which, you know, I think is good, because it means also that whenever you do go into battle, or whenever you do go into a marriage and stuff, like, you know, whenever you do have a character, you know that they're probably not going to be all married out. You know, you're not gonna, like, you're gonna probably find someone who hasn't married off a daughter or a son. I haven't had any children, but I'm not terribly worried about it, because again, my heir is this Queen of Castile, who is married to the King of Navarra. So there's a possibility that actually all of these kingdoms could actually be brought under one ruler, which would be good. But in CK3, there's actually a decision that you can use to, once you have all these kingdoms, you can use it. It's called Unite the Thrones, to bring them all under one kingdom, which I think is pretty interesting. I think it'll be pretty useful to kind of bring everything under one roof, rather than having everything split up. Although actually there is another way that you could possibly secure your succession in CK3. If you have the Sadistic Trait, you can use that and you can kill your own children. So if anyone remembers CK2 whenever it first came out, or back in the old days, there was a decision to call assassins, and you could hire assassins to kill people. Now, depending on the person, these were the money could be extortionate, and it could be very, very difficult to pull off, but you could do it. And if you did it, you could target your own children with it. Just gonna make sure that these are all mine. You could target your own children with this assassin's decision, and whenever you made that decision, you could just pay money time and time again, and eventually it would work and it was a good way of securing your succession. They took that out though eventually because they decided it was too overpowered. There's still gamey ways of making sure that the person you want takes over. You can put your imbecile heir on a boat to get scurvy, or you can stick them in an army and send them into a battle you just can't win. But that was a way of doing it that was just extremely easy, especially for kings and emperors who had abundance of money. Yeah, you could just throw money at that and you would be kind of ensured that the heir would die. So yeah, you could kill your own children. But in later patches, I don't think it was DLC. They definitely patched out. They took that away, so you can't do that anymore. Yeah. So the only way to do it is to kind of game the system and put your idiot son somewhere that they shouldn't be to kill them. But in CK3 there is actually a trait called Sadistic which will allow you to kill your own children. I don't know whether it's going to end up being overpowered and maybe nerfed a little bit. I could imagine that a lot of players will possibly seek out that trait, Sadistic, to try and get that, because if it's going to be that good at ensuring that the person you want inherits the throne, or eliminating anyone else that could inherit the throne. Yeah, I think that's going to be something that a lot of people are going to look for. Why are you not inheriting that land? Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's going to be interesting way of playing if we can actually find ways of kind of legitimately killing our children. We won't really have to worry so much about who the heir is, and we won't really have to worry about putting them in boats, although boats are no longer a thing in CK3. They don't. People have said that they teleport, that the troops, whenever you're sending them somewhere, that they're going to teleport. That's not technically true. They don't teleport, but they also don't necessarily. You yourself do not have boats. You kind of, whenever your troops go on a boat, they kind of just hire boats and they move on to them. So if I go up here and I can, raise my boats, I'd have to move my boats out, or I could keep my boats in the harbour and I can raise a levy and I can embark them like that and go out. And that's the boats, and then you can send them different places. This isn't going to happen in CK3. In CK3 you just have troops. So the troops will just, if you do this, the game won't let you. There's an X beside the pointer because you can't do it. But in CK3 they will. The way it's explained is they kind of hire boats, but it's done kind of behind the scenes. So they're not necessarily your boats. They just hire the boats and then they go wherever they want. I mean, yeah. I think it's weird. I'm sort of curious how it's going to work with looting, because one of the big things was whenever you were a Viking and you did it, you had boats and you would go and you would, have the boat off the edge of the coast, and that's where all the loot went. So I'm not. It kind of seems like, okay, I'm not going to be able to do that anymore. It's just going to magically move back into my treasury, or is it just going to? Maybe it's not going to even do that. Maybe it's just going to be a case of being connected to the trips themselves. So once the trips come back, that's when the money goes back into the treasury. I don't know. It seems kind of weird. I don't really know what the problem was with boats. I know a lot of people were asking for naval warfare, so maybe they took out boats so that people would stop asking for naval warfare. It seems a little backwards to me, to be honest. I'm not really sure what the problem was. I think they probably could have just kept the boats there as they were kind of already functioning. But yeah, I don't think it's as big a problem as a lot of people are making it out to be. I also don't really see why they did it though. I can kind of see both sides of the argument, which I know is kind of boring. Yeah. So I'm trying to find someone I can give this to that's not just going to be. I'll give it to you. You're content. And now I think I will imprison you, if I still can. Yeah, I don't care about you. Oh yeah, he's trying to kill me. I lost him as commander, but I've got this new guy, so he can do it. You, half-sister, you can be my court tutor. Another Dynasty matter that's I noticed in the stream this week was that if you're the head of your dynasty, you can actually ask other members of your dynasty to end their wars. So this guy, if he was in a war, or her, because she's also my dynasty, if they were in wars, which they aren't anymore, they were in wars, they seem to have stopped. If they were in wars, I could actually, if I was the head of the dynasty, I could ask them to end their wars. Which, I mean, you can do that kind of in CK2. You can't do it with your dynasty, but you can do it with vassals in your realm. So if you have vassals that are fighting against each other, you can ask them to end the war. But depending on your laws, if you go to realm laws, you go down here, you see administration. You either have feudal administration, late feudal administration, or imperial administration. If you don't have late administration, you can't. You can still ask. You can ask your vassals to end their wars, but if you don't have late feudal administration, they have no real incentive to agree. See, it says here, effects allows additional succession laws of vassals who refuse liege interference in wars or seen as traitors. So if you ask one of your vassals to end their war and they decide no, they're branded a traitor. You can imprison them. You can revoke their titles. Great. If you don't have that, you can't. So in CK3, you can probably still do it to your vassals, I think, although it might depend on your vassal contract obligations. That's another change actually to CK3, is that Muslims in CK3 will work kind of the same way they do in CK2. It's very opinion based, and they will give you trips based on their opinion of you. In a Catholic realm, because it's feudal, you will have feudal contracts, which are tell how much troops you should be getting from each vassal. It's a set amount, so I mean they don't their opinion doesn't matter. They basically have to give you the troops, regardless of whether they like you or not. So they have to give you the troops. I need to get my laws up so I can actually revoke this, I think, but no one wants to do that. Oh well. Yeah, I could do it, because see, he's a traitor. But because I don't have the title revocation law, I can't do that. But I will at some point. Yeah. So the Dynasty head in CK3 can actually ask other members to of their dynasty, of their bloodline. So see that Jamina, like you can ask other members of that family line to end their wars. I don't know what incentive there is for them to do it, because like I was saying, in terms of vassals, there's vassal contracts, or in CK2 there is that vassal law. I'm not sure if there's any incentive for your family members. Maybe it just depends on how much they like you. Maybe if they don't like you, they're just not going to do it, and if they do, they will. But yeah. What are you doing? You're trying to kill someone? So yeah, I don't know what the incentive is for that. But I mean, it's obviously a great kind of thing. Like, I mean, if you have family members that you can kind of ask them to end their wars. I mean, but maybe it just won't work. My mother-in-law has died. Yeah, as long as you know what you're doing. I don't want to die of the flu. At 28, it's a severe illness. Yeah, I should give the Jews back their money. Let's see. Actually, how much? What? Forming the Knights of Santiago. Yeah, let's do that instead of giving them the money back. Actually. Yeah, I like that. Haha. I was away. Am I paranoid? Yes, I am paranoid, so it's probably mine. It's fine. That's probably fine. Oh, you have absorbed the guy that I wanted to get revenge against. Interesting. You must have, did you fight off your decadence war? That's surprising. You're still at 70 though. That I could imagine another decadence revolt coming up. France did take some land off you though. Interesting. I'm probably going to end up butting up against you, France, sooner or later. And yeah, as I was saying, the Muslims in CK3, they work differently. I mean, their government type in CK2 is already different. It's Equita. It's different. They have a lot of different stuff. They can hold temples and such. But the actual way that they gain troops, I mean, whenever they bring up their levies, I mean, they gather their levies almost exactly the same way that any Catholic ruler does. That's the difference in CK3, actually, that's going to change. The way that they gather troops and how they get troops from their... oh, look, France is fighting them again. How they get troops from... Oh, and they also have a Decadence Revolt again. How they get troops from their vassals is just going to be very similar to CK2. So, I don't know, maybe if you're used to CK2, maybe one of your first playthroughs in CK3 should be a Muslim, because you're going to be used to that. Oh great, a club-footed son. Sure. Great. See, if I had the sadistic trait in CK3, I could kill him. I don't think this matters very much. Yeah. So, actually, in terms of killing, though not necessarily killing, but murder schemes in CK3 actually have the possibility to target supply chains. So, if you are targeting the commander of an army, it's one event that can come up can actually sabotage the supply chain. Now, supply in CK3 will work a lot differently than CK2. If you have an army in CK2, they don't really get attrition unless they are over the supply limit. So the supply limit in this county is 16.87. So I would have to have more than 16,000 troops or soldiers in this county in order to start taking attrition. You can see that the supply limit in a lot of places is quite high. Until my supply limit, or until my army was higher than that, I wouldn't really gain attrition. Now, in CK3, what's going to happen is that you're going to see attrition based on where you are connected to your land. So, while I'm in my land, my supply chain will be connected. If I were, this is what's to stop you from basically charging through your enemy's land and just going straight to their capital. I mean, this guy's capital is right on the edge of my land anyway. But to say if I was against France, it would be much more difficult, because by the time I got from here all the way up here, I would have lost a lot of supply. So by the time I get to here, my supply would be low, and I would then start taking damage, much like attrition in CK3. Now, there is another disadvantage, and that's the advantage system in CK3, which affects all battles. So in CK2, whenever you're in a battle, all that really matters is things like troop composition, troop numbers, and center flank. So, I mean, the center flank, and this is terrible, you would want to move some of those over. Again, to make sure you have a strong center flank. That flank there will almost definitely fall. This left flank will almost definitely fall with 52 troops. So you want the center flank to stand. Those are the only things that really matter in CK2. As long as you have a good center flank, as long as your troop composition is good, as long as you have the numbers, you're probably going to win most battles. In CK3, it's now a little bit more complex. It's based on a thing called advantage, which will depend on a lot of things, such as if you're in debt, you get a -5 disadvantage. For comparison, if you are out of supply, you get a -20 disadvantage to battles. That is massive. So you're going to need to make sure that you're in supply. Losing supply is going to be a major disadvantage, and if you get caught in a battle whenever you're out of supply, you're going to get raped. There's obviously a lot of other things that can offset it, so even though you have -20, if you have some really good knights, that'll offset it. So you can use your knights to offset that kind of disadvantage, but it's probably not, because you're already taking attrition damage, you're going to be losing men, so you're not going to have the troop unless you have a massive number advantage on them. You're probably going to want to make sure that your troops are always in supply. Yeah, so I think that if you can use your intrigue to cause things like that, I think it's a really interesting way of waging war, that your wars aren't necessarily always going to be done by brute force. You could theoretically use some kind of intrigue to beat down your opponent and take their land through a more sneaky way than having to just basically go, okay, we're going to take the war to you and we're going to fight, and if I beat you with more troops, then I win, because if I can do intrigue. I mean, we've seen intrigue already work on the stream, because they used intrigue to kill one of their vassals that was revolting, and it invalidated the entire war. If you can do something like that, or if you can, France are just taking over this lower. Yeah. We'll wait until this Decadent Revolt of theirs ends. Although they are actually winning the Decadent Revolt, which is rather surprising. I usually see Decadent Revolts beat their opponents 90% of the time. These guys are doing well to hang on. Yeah, so I think if you can use intrigue to kidnap someone or kill someone, I mean, that's one thing. That's one way of doing it. But intrigue in order to actually affect troop count or supply is really quite interesting. I think I would like to see more events like that and more plots like that. I don't know. Maybe they think those would just be too OP. But I think it could make an interesting way of playing the game. As I say, that not everything that would be brute force, that you could use your intrigue and diplomacy in order to kind of win wars. Another difference is the murder schemes. If you get caught and the guy knows, if you get caught and they don't necessarily know it's you, but he's suspicious, there's a trait they can get called Watchful. Now, Watchful will stop you from making schemes against that character for 2 years. There's nothing really like that in CK2. If your plot fails, you can kind of just keep going on and keep attacking and keep trying. The only thing you'll really get is an opinion modifier of like -100, and it will stack, so you can end up with like -500 if you keep failing to kill someone. But yeah, it's not. There's no real incentive in CK2 to really stop trying to kill someone. Apart from the fact if you're that bad at it, you're just kind of ruining your reputation. So yeah, there's a lot to come in CK3. There's a lot of those little differences, like the Dynasty and the murder plots and how holy wars are going to work. So I think there's a lot that kind of makes it seem similar, but also different. That the game has kind of evolved past what it is here. in CK2. You're not just getting an upgraded version of this game with slightly better graphics and fuller bodies. You're not just getting this little head picture, you're getting a full body, you can see. In the stream, we seen one of the events showed off a naked guy who had been caught naked, and there was I think it was part of another, I don't think it was a murder plot, I think it was some kind of plot to get hooks on someone, and they were using the plot to send in jugglers to see him naked, which is interesting, I guess. But yeah, the idea of them being naked, I think, is probably going to spark a few ideas in some modders. That'll be what they're looking for. Yeah, let's repay this one now. Yep, so that has been another war. These guys are still pretty stable. Despite pretty high decadence. He moves his capital, actually. Well, he still owns that territory. Do not overthrow the Knights of Santiago. Great. That sounds great. Oh, yay, and I can revoke titles now. This guy's still in prison. I should still be able to do it. He's still a traitor. So yeah, I think CK3 isn't just an upgrade of CK2. There's a lot of other little things. You're obviously losing some stuff, like diseases. But I think it's a fair trade. And in the end, I think DLC and stuff will come out with that. I'm interested to see what the first DLCs will be of. They could be really of anything. I know a lot of the first DLCs for CK2 were opening up other playstyles. So in the beginning of CK2 you could only play as Catholics or Christians. So the first few DLC opened up Muslims and Republics. So yeah, I think that's probably what in CK3 though. We can already play all these guys except for Republics. So I think maybe they will come with the first DLC or so. So it'll be interesting to see how they've changed that and what work they've put into it. But I think that is where we are going to end this week. So yeah, thanks for listening. Bye.